30th of March 2023. This is one of those what the fuck moments, and the title of this one is What Happened to Values. We are living in a time where things, for people of my generation, things does not make sense. I come from a generation, I can remember the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, where conservative values were second nature. Family values was important. Your religious values was important, and it was respected. But things changed, and one of the big factors for the changes that happened to us is what I call the politician race. Yes, they are a race on their own, and they have developed, they started in the late 70s, and they grew in importance and in presence, and today we sit with a situation that the politician race is totally divorced from the people they're supposed to represent. You cannot talk about your representative because he does not represent you. He needed your vote to get that seat, and once he's in that seat, all he is interested in is how to stay in that seat, how much money can he make while he's in that seat, and he has to serve the masters. When he sits in that benches, he does not think about you out on your farm or in a village or in a little town somewhere in the bundus at all. You are not part of their lives. They are a race, and they have now elevated themselves to a super race. It doesn't matter where in the Western world you go, it's the same story. Doesn't matter for which party you vote, the end goals stays the same. It's all bluff to make you believe in this fucking thing they call democracy. There's nothing like democracy. If you think you live in a democracy, you must think again. Go and look at what that democracy is doing to you. They're in total control of your life. They dictate what you can do, where you can go, how you can spend your money, and all of that. They decide what your life is going to be like. You've got no say in it. In the 60s, politicians were representatives. And they were sitting there in Parliament, and they were actually representing their constituents, because their constituents had the power to call them, recall them, and call them back if they did not. Today we are faced with a situation. We saw what happened to us during the pestilence. The politicians enforced the instructions from the WEF. That is it. The politician race is the tools for this Western elite cabal to fuck our lives up. And one of the most important things that they want to destroy is families, because they know that tight families cannot be controlled as they would like to control that. That is important. I said during the pestilence, I said that what is going to happen is that this draconian measures is going to wake up nationalism across the Western world. And don't see the nationalism in the broad sense. Look at nationalism in its narrowest possible sense. Because that it is it. Communities are going to gather and pull together based on values. shared values, culture, language. That is important. The days of this huge blocks like the USA, Canada, and the EU is over. Those things are not going to withstand the wrath of the people. The destruction of families is what is going to trigger a revolt. Look at what they're doing to our children with this gender thing. Look at what they do. It is satanic. In the 60s, those people that had those tendencies were correctly in the closet, and they stayed there because they knew that society will not accept their conduct. But then slowly but surely, society started accepting it. And in the 70s, the movement of coming out of the closet started, and it became fashionable to come out of the closet. The churches started to accept it, which is, to me, unacceptable, because that conduct is a sin, and it is not acceptable to me as a Christian. But the churches started accepting it and condoning it, and then governments removed the laws that was against it, and all of that. And that is how our morality was sabotaged and destroyed in front of us. In the 50s and the 60s, people, man and a woman, would meet and they start dating, and then they get married and they start a family. By the late 70s, this living together thing started to take root, and by the 80s, that became fashion. People just stayed together before they got married. They lived together as husband and wife, and then one day they may get married. But then it evolved, and those unmarried couples started getting children, and that created major issues. If they split up because they were not tied legally, so you can just pack your bags and go. There was an old joke going around saying, yeah, we will live together for 10 years, and if it doesn't work, we'll split the children and go our own way. That is what happened to it. So moral values went down the gutter. And I think now, in hindsight, if you sit and think about it, there was a movement that dictated that route. But today we're sitting with a problem. The West is without morality, and there's no values. Nothing is sacred. I believe California was working on a thing that they want to prohibit the Bible in certain places. What is that? Satanic. We know that the WEF is basically based on satanic values. Here in South Africa, we as white people, and I'm talking about white people, have got a problem. Upcoming election, but who the hell are you going to vote for? You can't vote for them. If you have decent Christian values, you cannot vote for the DA, because that DA is totally controlled by the WEF. Think about what they did to us with the pestilence. They were in lockstep with the WHO. Up to today, they still promote the jabs. And then this gender shit that they are splashing all over, rainbow flags everywhere. That is satanic. So, we've got a dilemma. There's two parties that, in my mind, can get my vote. Either the ACDP or the Freedom Front Plus. And as I said in the previous Skidmark, I cannot vouch for any one of those two parties that they don't have WEF connections. But they appear to be the least corrupt of the lot, because a stay-away vote is fucking dangerous for everybody. But let that be. We can see that America is collapsing. Their school children are exposed to the most horrific gender shit. And the parents are just taking it. There are here and there you can now see voices coming up that are resisting. But still, they're in the minority. Although the majority of the children are being ruined, basically. And I see now that that gender movement has now said that all Christians must be killed, and Christian children heads must be chopped off, and all of that type of cock, so they threaten violence. I've got news for them. It's one thing to stand and make a TikTok video of you bravely swinging a gun around in your rainbow dress. It's another story to meet a guy basically like me out there in the bush or in the street, and I have got a gun as well. This shit is going to fly, that's for sure. But this is how we live. And now we have got this problem of the war in Ukraine, and the things that is coming out now from Ukraine is pure satanic. And Zelensky is now openly fighting the church, burning churches, banning the Orthodox religion, but the West still supports him. So the West has lost all their values. Today, as I sit here and I talk to you, the only country that has a constitution that protects good values is Russia. And that is the reality. The West has lost all rights to claim that they are the democratic voice of the world. Bugger that. That is wishful thinking. Think about this. Values. Respect for your family. Respect for your elders. Respect for your neighbors. Respecting people of different cultures. Respecting their culture. Respecting their religion. All of it comes down to respect. And that is what is important. We must never forget the value of respect. And that is what it is. The West has no respect. Look at the millions of people they killed in Iraq, in Libya, in Afghanistan, in Yemen. As we are talking here, children are dying in Yemen due to a lack of food and a lack of medicine, and the British fleet is blockading the Yemeni harbors. Think about that. My personal opinion is the West is done. It must only be buried. If you see the White House crew in whatever they're talking now, they are in a panic. They know their days are over. They don't know how to handle it. And the longer they carry on with this, the bigger the loss is going to be. Last year there were people, financial guys, that said the role of the dollar is going to diminish. It is a fact. And they all looked at 8 to 10 years. And here we sit today. 8 months later, a hell of a lot of global trade has deserted the dollar. And you must think for 1 second, just try and imagine yourself if the dollar as a reserve currency collapses. What is going to be left of America? Americans owes on their national debt $33 trillion. Think about that. Please give me a like, and subscribe, and share the thing. Thank you for your support.